Snehil Khanur, he will be moderating the session. Alok Paul, CEO Little Box. Harshit Vij, founder Free Cult. Harmanpreet Singh, founder and managing partner Path Ventures. And Swati Kulkarni, the director from Fireside Ventures. Can we have a huge round of applause for them?
Today we are discussing surviving the funding winter, founders playbook for resilient growth, and we also have two VCs with us for their POV as well. So I'll also play the role of the founder, right? So at least we have two POVs. So we have Swati Kulkarni, Director Fireside Ventures. Welcome to the panel. Swati is a director at Fireside Ventures, one of India's most prominent consumer-focused fund. And I think we all know Fireside Ventures, right? Then Harshit is not with us. Alok, you are CEO of Little Box India, a Gen Z-focused fashion and footwear brand known for fast-moving collections and trend-driven styles. Right, so welcome to the panel.
Hi everyone.
And I think कुछ गलत लिख दिया मैंने. And we have Harmanpreet from Path Ventures, and he is founder and managing partner. Path Ventures also, I think everybody knows here, early stage VC firm backing consumer brands and laborers.
Hi everyone.
Welcome to the panel. So I'll start my first question with Harmanpreet. Capital के अलावा, right? What kind of strategic or operational support do you think founders need the most to survive a downturn like funding winter we have been going through for the last many months now? And one add-on question: do you see that winter is coming to an end now, or you see it is going to last a bit longer?
So I'll start with the second one first.
Yeah.
I want to check in the room. Do you guys feel there's a funding winter? How many of you feel there's a funding winter? Nobody. Okay. Nobody? So that answers your question, I think. I think capital is available.
Yeah.
I think, of course, 2021 was an abnormal period in general. If you look at, how the VC funding went up, angel funding went up, and it's normalized now. I think this is the normal, and maybe it will improve from here on. But this is a normal pace we should get used to, is my view. And there's capital available for sure for quality businesses, right? To the first question as to what founders should think about if they're caught, let's say, in a downturn, in a tricky situation. I think the first thing to do is to kind of take a realistic assessment of the situation itself, right? Are you in a situation which is salvageable? Are you in a good situation? Are you in a bad situation? And be realistic about it, right? That's where I think the investors can come in. And, they're more objective. Founders can be a little more emotional about their business, of course. And if certain hard decisions have to be taken, founders can actually consult and investors can actually help drive that decision as well. But I've seen, many founders now have really, there's a period of excess in 2020-21, and then a lot of fundamentally good founders made mistakes, overspent on certain things, and I've seen now many of them have really come back really strong. I mean, I can talk about more examples as we go along, but I think that's really happening now. The key there is to realize what needs to be done and then do it.
Guys, please silence at the back. You are getting some really amazing nuggets right from the mouth of founders and VCs. So if you want to talk, please go outside or go downstairs. Those who are here to listen, let them listen, please. D2C Insider team, please ensure that there is silence at the back. So one add-on question to this particular one. If you have a choice of two startups and founders, exact same traction, exact same category and product, one has gone through a downturn and came back, with a strong foundation versus one who is new, has grown faster but has not seen a downturn. Who would you choose if you can only choose one? And why?
See, that's a very tough question. Obviously, I think maybe the
Why
consensus
should
are
only VCs get to ask tough questions?
that is true. So obviously someone who's gone through a downturn will be very, very measured with capital. Right? They will know what mistakes have been made and how to kind of approach new things. So I'll be more comfortable if I want to play a less riskier bet. But I think there is also a value in optimism. And when things have started working for you and you've only seen success, you are not afraid to take certain risks. So I think there's no easy answer. To be very honest, it depends on the situation. I'll probably choose one of them for sure.
Sure. So I'll come back to you. Alok, you operate in a very interesting category targeting Gen Zs, right? And Gen Zs has been, I think, अभी Gen Z protests चल रहे हैं नेपाल में. It is like none of the protests that I have ever seen, right? So उसकी reporting भी बहुत ही different तरीके की हो रही है. So I have one question for you, but first I want to ask you, how do you, and give me a stereotypical answer, okay? But what you have on your own while working for them, selling to them, you have observed, how do you classify, what are some of the three, unique traits of a Gen Z Indian person? Because Gen Z US and Gen Z Indian, I personally believe, are very different.
Yeah, definitely. Cultural influence तो रहता ही है. So, according to our understanding, what we see, one thing which is very prominent is that loyalty is not there, right? So, when you talk about Gen Z and targeting them, price plays a very important role, and not only that, trends play a very important role. Today, if we are relevant and we are targeting, say, Gen Zs in a good way, they see us as the ones who are providing them with the trendy in fashion products, right? They will come and purchase from us. If we lose relevance, right, say 6 months down the line, they're not going to come back. Second is that today, maybe because of price, like they get attracted towards a certain brand, they buy, they try, but it does not mean that it will create a loyalty, right? So again, these are very different traits, but if you look at, commonality between, most of the consumers, you can create loyalty here also, but then it has to be done in a very, different manner. It cannot be done only through product or only through pricing. You have to connect with them in the right way. Right? So relevancy not only from a product point of view, but what you stand for, what you as a brand, what is important for you, that plays a very, very important role. Right? And the third thing I would say is that they want to know who are behind the brand. Right? They would like to know, like the founders, what do they believe in, and that plays a very, very important role.
Story matters to them.
Very much. Right.
And price point and loyalty में ज़्यादा कुछ बदला नहीं है. Millennials versus Gen X.
ज़्यादा difference नहीं है, मतलब they will move. It's about किसका कितना closet share हम ले सकते हैं. But at the end of the day, no one brand can satisfy any customer. Right?
Got it. And एक चीज़ बोलते हैं, जैसे ये US के लिए ज़्यादा मैंने सुना है कि Gen Zs care about purpose or mission also. Do you see that happening? Do you have any insights on those?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. ये तो मतलब there is no denying about that fact, right? Like I'll just give you an example. Not Gen Z, but Gen Alpha. So one of my nephew, we were buying a car, and it was a Thar. So he came and told my brother and his dad that why are you buying one more evil car?
Evil car, as in
Yeah,
petrol.
so, yeah, why? Matlab, he was very concerned.
And how old is he?
He's 7 years old.
Wow. Wow. Great. So moving on to Swati. Swati, what common traits have you seen in consumer brands that have successfully come out of the downturn of a funding winter? Is there any common thing, or everybody had their own playbook? What was it?
I think everybody. Hello?
Can I get another mic?
Yeah. So I think while everybody does have some nuances to playbook, what I think is important is how capital efficiently you have built the business. if you are, let's say, and how you have built your brand, especially when it comes to consumer. Because if you're just spent on performance marketing and bought revenues, that is not sustainable. So when funding winter hits, you will have growth constraint, and in turn you will have many more constraints about cash burns. You'll not be able to raise capital, because when funding winter hits, like in VCs and funds usually will ask you, how frugally have you grown? Will you also do the same thing with their capital if they were to invest in? So it's very important to understand how you have spent and in what you have spent your money that you have raised so far. And brand building is very important. So at what stage do you shift from performance marketing to brand and not just keep buying revenues?
Very interesting. So, similar question, but different angle, Harmanpreet. Today, a lot of startups we see, they are very much focused on cash flow and profitability. Many times, profitability may come at an expense of growth. And to give you my own example, so we became cash flow positive almost 1.5 years ago. And for the last 6 months, we have been making good cash flows. But now, as a CEO founder, I am kind of obsessed about that number. And I sometimes end up asking myself, am I, stealing something from the experimentation portion which could have gone, right? It would have hit the bottom line. But probably we came here because we experimented a lot. पहले जहाँ 1 CR का बर्न होता था तो 10 लाख मैटर नहीं करते थे. अभी कैश फ्लो पॉजिटिव तो एवरी 20,000 मैटर करता है, right? So how do you balance that? What is a POV from a VC point, perspective on this?
See, I think the pendulum swings to the extreme sometimes, right? It swung to one extreme of saying growth, don't worry about profitability. It swings to I feel it swung to the other side a little bit more now, to saying look at profitability and growth will follow. I think it depends on each context differently, right? Every startup will have a context in terms of what their funding requirements are, what is the kind of funding available to them, right? And what's their DNA like. So you have to also balance the interest of, let's say, all stakeholders, because there's a VC who's come in with a certain expectation of returns. Now, if you suddenly say, I'm going to grow at 30% and I'm going to be profitable, that works great for as a business, right? There's nothing wrong with it. But maybe the VC may not be aligned with that, right? Because he's not expecting that. So you have to look at your situation and context. I would say in general, growth is important. I mean, growth is the fuel for startups, right? That gives them the right to play and the right to raise more capital and so on. So I think growth is also very important, not just profit.
What is the minimum growth as a founder they should target at early stages? Say they are sub 10 lakh MRR, right? What kind of yearly growth? Is it still 15% MOM is like the best benchmark, or they have, it has settle down a bit?
I would say, in general, like you need to do the maths in terms of, let's say, if you're raising X amount and promising some returns to your VCs, given the way VC maths works, let's say you'd have to be a sizable business at the end of the day. I would say 300 crores, 500 crores. Today, that is a sizable brand in India. So what is your trajectory to get there in a reasonable period of time? Is it 5 years, 6 years, 7 years? And it's okay to take pauses in between, right? It's okay to say this year is the year of consolidation. So I would look at it more longer term and say you have to deliver that large outcome for 500 crore.
Now VCs, POV are also somewhat aligning with founders, and founders are aligning with POV, and it is kind of consolidation is happening there also.
That's right.
Great. Swati, how do you think founders should recalibrate their fundraising strategy in terms of storytelling, valuation expectations, or timing, given that while capital is available, it is much tighter versus 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, like Harman said, I completely agree with him that there is no funding winter. 2021 was an exception, and and people thought that exception will become the norm, but that has not been the case. I think this is probably what a steady state will look like. Hence, you should model yourself to raise funds in this situation where probably the growth expectations are higher. There is expectation that profitability will come in sooner, and also in terms of the exit for a VC or a PE, how soon can you get that exit, right? Everybody has to ultimately meet their IRR requirements and DPI requirements. So I think one thing is on the, storytelling, have a very sharp consumer insight and proposition. Like, why should the consumers choose your brand? What is the pain point of consumer that you're solving for? And whether there is a large enough opportunity to build in that space. And also have a roadmap to saying what is that shape of business, like Harman was saying, at 300 crores, at 500 crores, what your business looks like, what is the category expansion you will do, which are the channels you will go to, how will you achieve that channel market fit. So have at least, you may not have like execution level, step-by-step approach, but at least have a broad game plan as to where you will reach to in terms of storytelling. What was your other question? I forgot.
The other part was, the valuation expectations.
Look, I think valuation expectation wise, I think it will be incorrect to expect a 2021 kind of valuation. Whatever you have seen in the last 2 to 3 years, probably that is the norm that will continue. So, and you should also think of saying that if you raise something at higher valuation, you have to grow into that valuation. So it's not always, valuation can't be the end goal. End goal should be building a very good business, which all of us, whoever investors, founders, employees, everybody makes money in that. So think of it more from an outcome out perspective, saying 5 to 7 years down the line, what do I want to achieve? And don't forget that if somebody gives you a high valuation, they'll expect you to grow into that valuation pretty soon.
So thanks a lot. I hope founders are taking notes. These are the questions that the answers to those you don't get very easily. And at the end, I'll ask a special surprise question. And I hope both of them will answer that. And that will probably help you a lot in your fundraising journey and approaching the right investors. Right? Back to Alok for a second. If you were building this pre-funding winter versus today, right, you would not have been very much focused on conserving cash, I am assuming, right? Or you would have been less focused on कि उससे पहले because जल्दी जलाओगे जल्दी मिलेगा अगली वैल्यूएशन मिलेगी तो पीछे VC का भी IRR बढ़ेगा, right? That used to be the growth at all costs strategy, right? But you are doing it in today's time. So how are you balancing that? Because अगर इतना ज़्यादा trendy product लाना है मार्केट में हर साइकिल में और आई एम एज्यूमिंग ट्रेंडी प्रोडक्ट है तो अगर वो बिका रह गया तो डेड स्टॉक भी होता होगा, राइट? सो हाउ डू यू मैनेज दैट कैश, हाउ डू यू प्रिडिक्ट दैट ट्रेंड, एंड डज इट हैपन समटाइम्स यू थॉट कि यार ये ट्रेंडी है बट बाय द टाइम एंड ये ट्रेंड इतना टाइम चलेगा एंड बाय द टाइम यू गॉट इट इनटू द मार्केट Gen Zs had moved on?
So first of all, I really like your question.
Thank you. I like it too.
Question का जो answer है ना, that was only the genesis of Little Box. So we wanted to, and especially the founders Partho and Rimjim. Partho is there.
Hey, Partho.
For all the people who want to start anything in clothing, and if you are here in the room, definitely talk to this guy. He cracked it, right? So if you look at how exactly we go in that direction. So we, from a front end point of view, you would see it as a clothing brand, but at the back end, it's a completely tech based company, right? Like we do things like how softwares are launched. Means we launch small, we test it out, and then we scale the products. There are times when we are launching products with zero inventory also. So what we call it as our proprietary tag, we call it as a real-time retail, right? So how we balance it out, it's something, means you have to understand in very detail. But the end result is something that I can share, is that we have an inventory turn of 12 plus today. Right, so we have a inventory days on hand of finished goods less than 25 days, and at current scale, that is means we can claim that we are one of the very few brands in globally who have achieved it, and we would like to continue doing that. Now that is the whole point of are we building something scalable, because at today's scale we were able to do that. Right?
Wow, great. Another question for you. Since you are targeting Gen Zs, do you have to be different in terms of your communication to that user? Like in Gen Zs talk in different slangs which most millennials are not able even to understand, right? So do you market it to them in that way, or do you think it does not really matter?
No, it definitely matters. So another thing is that how it actually, so I'll just spend a little bit time on our consumer, right? Like who they are. So when you look at our consumers, they want to express themselves, using our products, right? Now, and when they do that, they, there are certain use cases and they have certain, style in mind which they want to achieve. It can be, a first date with a boyfriend, or, going out pub hopping with her friends, or a vacation with her family, right? Whenever she's planning something like that, she has certain, vision for her, that particular event. And that is where our brand comes in picture. And the purchases that happen are in general impulse oriented, but at the same time, there is a reason behind they buying, right? And one thing that we have noticed is that, when they are using our products, they will be in all these events, right? They will be creating a lot of content, in their own circle of influence. It need not be an influencer, but somebody can have a circle of influence of only 100 people, somebody be, maybe 1,000. But when they are using our products, right, they create a lot of content like reels, videos, photos, and they share it in, like Instagram, Snapchat. And one thing that we have seen a common trait is that they do not want to repeat their clothes once they showcase it in Instagram, right? So that is something that we have seen that this is very important from them. So that is the reason why, based on use cases, we have to create ad copies which can relate with them, right?
So circle of influence is more important than influencers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, that's some amazing insight. So now I have a question for both of you, and I would like to know your POV.
Before that, still I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
So this is a surprise question for you, right? So you were mentioning about growth versus, and now you said you're cash flow positive for last 6 months. So how are you thinking about getting into fast growth mode, burn mode versus, let's say, saying I have infinite runway now?
Yeah, so that's the thing. So Touchwood, luckily we have been growing very fast. We have doubled our revenue in last 6 months while remaining EBITDA positive and generating cash flow. But I now find myself loving that number that every month end में इतना करोड़ हमने बैंक में डाला, right? But now we are introspecting कि यार instead of raising external money, it has other benefits than just money, right? Because it unlocks a lot of partner ecosystem which now have to take us 10, 12, 30, 40x from current, right? Should we invest that money, that let that number keep going down? It is fine, right? Anyway, we are not taking away from the bank, we are just utilizing our cash flows. So that's the internal debate, right? I am now, with time, I am more inclined towards investing it, right? Because we know the levers, we know where we will invest it and it will come back within the 1-2 months. So that's where we are, right? And that transition is happening. Thank you for that question. So now the question, and especially I see a lot of young founders wasting a lot of time in that, and myself also being guilty. A lot of time, especially when we are, in first few years of our first startup, we don't really know which particular investor to go to, right? And उसके पीछे की कुछ मैथ तो आज भी मेरे को 100% नहीं समझ आती, कि वो फंड रिटर्नर वाली मैथ हो गई या वेंचर टाइम एंड वेंचर स्केल वाला कॉन्सेप्ट बहुत लोगों को शुरू में नहीं समझ आता, राइट? While you may be building a great business, it may not become a venture scale business within venture time, which is usually less than 10 years, right? And उसमें correct me if I am wrong, fund returner वाला math भी लगेगा, IRR भी लगेगा. So in simple words, if you can explain young founders कि यार आपको before you write a list कि यार these are the investors I should go to, what are the things they should look at?
Hi, I'm so sorry. If I may, I think that's a very tough question. I'll give you an extra minute to think about it. In the meantime, guys, please, I would request everyone to please come and sit. Everyone who is talking in the back, let's respect the time and effort of the four wonderful people who are talking here, giving some valuable insights. Let's please all sit down.
इसकी वीडियो नहीं डालेंगे
Please.
इस वाले क्वेश्चन की नहीं डालेंगे वीडियो ये सुनना पड़ेगा आपको
Everybody, and let's please maintain this decorum. We have this beautiful panel. We have just one more panel, and then it's your floor to network. So let's just value each other's times, please. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you for that extra time. So, see, I think that venture maths question is important for every founder to understand. It's kind of difficult to explain that very quickly, but I'll try.
Take your time.
See, at the end of the day, look, when VCs look at their own return, right? We are in a business of investing and we have to return 3x generally in that range to our investors, right? We think of our portfolio comprising of, let's say, 15, 20 companies, whatever X number, and there is a failure rate in early stage companies. That's the reality. So, taking into account that failure rate, the other companies have to make up for it, right? That's why VCs are in the business of finding large winners. Now, for some funds, it is a fund returner. For us, for example, we operate with a half returner model, right? So it kind of depends on how every VC thinks about it. But yeah, the Pareto or the power law of VC is very, very true. I come from a private equity background, which was very different. We were taught never to lose money. In VCs, it's the other way around, right? You can lose money, but find that 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 big winners which return your fund. So that's what you need to understand, that VCs are not in the business of funding, let's say, a great business, sustainable business, which is 30 crores after 5 years. That's a lifestyle business. That's not a venture scale business, like you said, right? So if you are raising money from venture capital, please understand what their expectations are. And if you're okay with that, then only raise capital from them. That's how I would put it. And sorry, what was the second part of the question?
that what should a founder
Look for in terms of going to a
how
VC.
should they make the list
Right.
of the relevant VCs that they're
Yeah.
relevant for them?
See, I'm going to say something, which I should not probably be saying, but look, every VC will tell you that we are a papers plan investor, right? Come to us as early. Nothing is too early. But reality is like, yes, there are exceptions which they make, right? But there's a sweet spot for each VC. So identify what is a sweet spot for each of the VCs, what have they done in the past, and therefore that will give you an indication of whether they're the right people to go to at this stage of fundraise. And the mistakes that I see, sorry, take a bit more time, but the mistakes that I see a lot of very early stage founders make is that they will go to a named fund, a large fund, and expect that, get into that PR, buy into that PR of saying, come to us at any stage, etc. But they will find disappointment.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what because analyst तो मेल कर देता है आपको LinkedIn पे.
Correct.
वो फाउंडर को लगता है अरे यार इसका मेरे को एनालिस्ट का मैसेज आ गया है अब तो मेरी लाइफ बदल जाएगी राइट बट वो तो अपनी लीड इकट्ठी कर रहा है उसका काम ही वही है
और
कुछ
वो
कुछ
सब pipeline बना रहा है।
बैकग्राउंड कॉलिंग भी शुरू कर देते हैं एंड उनके दोस्तों को अरे अरे यार तू इससे रेस कर रहा है नहीं यार मेरी तो अभी कॉल भी नहीं राइट यू आर सेइंग समथिंग प्लीज
No, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, see, every VC wants to meet every company as early as possible, so that they can track them, they can understand them better, etc., etc. But as a founder, it's your job to understand कि funding कहाँ से आ रही है.
Yeah. Swati, what would you want to add on this?
Yeah, I think everything that Harman said, is something that you should keep in mind. Apart from that, also understand, what is the VC experience has been, whether they have, helped companies scale in your domain. Also, is there a VC which brings in expertise which probably you don't have as a founder or as a founding team? Can they help you scale faster? Also understand finally on the fund life, right? Sometimes you will approach a VC probably whose fund has, maybe only 5 years left. And maybe you'll not be able to scale so much that you'll be able to give them an exit. So, and then maybe you'll spend time and then you'll figure out that they'll say that, look, it doesn't match our investment horizon. So think about all these things as well as to, how long the time horizon is, because it's a long partnership. So the earlier you come into a fund's ecosystem, probably it's better for you as a founder and for the VC also to help you scale up.
Great, thanks a lot. Any questions if our audience has either for VCs or for founders? Would love to answer. Anybody has a question? Yes. Can we get a mic to her, please?
So I have a question for Alok. You are doing clothing and you're also doing footwear. So what are the differences of Gen Z when it comes to clothing and footwear? Because I know that there must be a difference for these two belonging to the same wardrobe category itself, the styling products only. But I feel wardrobe, like clothing is a, let's say आप उसपे 5-10 मिनट 15 मिनट लगाओगे, but footwear is like 1 मिनट में लगाया चले गए. So how do you understand what should come, how fast should come?
So when you look at, see, first of all, from a back-end point of view, if you look at clothing and shoes are completely different supply chain, right? The way we look at clothing is like we launch around 100 styles on a weekly basis, right? But footwear is not something like that. Footwear is more, we try to figure out core products, core styles, and like when you look at your own, say, buying behavior, maybe you will be buying, say, 20 clothes a year, but maybe a max 2 to 3, footwear. And that also, for different occasion, you need different footwear, but limited, you will always have limited, right? So that is the reason why when we look at footwear, we look at more from a core perspective, right? And when it is clothing, it's all trend-based, it's all what is in market, what is happening in social media, but footwear is not that much like that, right?
Great. Thank you for answering that. Any other question from the audience? No? Great. So we'll conclude the panel. Thanks a lot, everybody, for joining and answering the question with such great details. And a lot of answers were actually which new founders at least will not found anywhere else. So thanks a lot for that.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.